Are you a founder looking for a CTO to join your startup? Or are you just looking to ensure that your CTO maximizes their impact? If so, this video on the difference between a great technologist and a great startup CTO should help you. I'm Sam Wong, and I'm a startup CEO coach. I've done 5 startups with 3 exits. I was a CTO or technical VP for 4 of these startups and a CEO for the 5th one. I wrote a book on startup execution, and I've built a library of training classes for founders. This video is a small part of a longer 45-minute discussion, which is one of the free classes I have on our fundablestartups.com website. Let's jump into the conversation already in progress.
Sam, I had no idea that the CTO's role had to develop that much over the lifespan of a company, especially really at the beginning. I mean, it sounds like every round of fundraising, the CTO's role is changing. So I gotta ask, what's the difference between a great technologist and a great CTO?
You know, Shawn, that's a great question. Most people do not understand the difference between a techie or a technologist and a CTO. A great technologist is very important. They're super needed because they need to be very good at getting hands-on. These people tend to be more on the front line. But a great CTO should have the ability to get hands-on, but it's more important for that CTO, for that person to have great technical judgment. So a while back, I was working side by side with a CFO, and I was an aspiring techie. Okay, my CFO colleague taught me a very important lesson: is that you generally don't want the best technology. You want the technology that works best. So I was absolutely a technologist, and I loved building the best, newest, shiniest, brightest, most tech buzzword compliant type of technology. But I didn't understand this because it takes a lot of experience to be able to assess what works best. That's not an easy thing to do. It requires a lot of background and insight. So a CTO needs to be able to make great business decisions with technology. And most technologists, like I said earlier, for myself when I was younger, want to just work with the latest trendy tech. CTOs know that the right tech may not be the most trendy. A while back, when I was in management consulting, we had a client project, and I've told this story before. I had a young developer who was a great developer, a great coder, much better coder than I was. Okay, and he proposed that we implement a technology called Corba. It was brand new, Common Object Request Broker Architecture. Okay, it was a new Java thing, and he was really trying to grow his Java skills. Well, the problem was that the problem did not require Corba. It was not a complex problem, or Corba was a very complex architecture. So I looked at the problem and I said, well, it may be boring, but I can solve the same problem in about a week or week and a half with just Perl and shell scripts, which was very dull, old, boring technology. So that was a classic situation where if you didn't have somebody who actually understood the technology and how to use it strategically, that project could have gone in the wrong direction and way overbuilt something that was new and trendy, but very, very complex. And as it turns out, Corba ended up failing, and it's no longer used or talked about at all. So if they had gone down that path, it would have gone into a dead end, and they would have had to have turned around and completely rebuild it. So that was just a simple situation of where a technologist didn't really make the right choice. The other thing I would say is that if you look at it simply, technologists tend to be good at tactics. A CTO needs to be great at strategy. A CTO doesn't have to be the strongest coder in the team, and in fact, as the company grows, they really shouldn't be the strongest developer. They need to hire that skill set in so that they can focus on other more important business application of the technology.
Sam, we've talked about how a CTO has to be able to get out there and have face-to-face with customers, with investors. We talked about how they had to be great technologists, but what about the non-technical skills? What about the soft skills? What do you think the great CTOs should have in terms of those?
You know, it's funny, Shawn, that you do mention the soft skills or the non-technical skills. Most people who've never hired a CTO just focus on the technical skills alone, and that's a mistake. It's really critically important that a CTO have communication skills, good communication skills, and communication skills in the area of written communication, verbal communication, and visual communication. People don't really talk about the visual communication very often. They don't really think about it, but it's actually a key skill for somebody in a CTO role, because you've heard the old adage, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So the CTO needs to be able to communicate visually, or needs to use their words if there's no whiteboard or there's no slide or whatever. They need to be able to use their words to paint a picture and tell a story. So visual communication is a very underrated skill. Most people don't even consider it as a skill to evaluate. Another skill that's very important is that the CTO needs to be able to sell. You've heard the old adage, everyone is in sales. And that couldn't be more true than in a startup company. Everyone has to sell, including the CTO, especially if the technology is something that is leading the essence of the product. And that's a key reason why the customers might buy the product. A key element of the sales skills is listening. Okay, a lot of people in the technology space like to espouse and demonstrate their knowledge by talking a lot. That's not really helpful. Communication is better when you actually are a very good listener. I would also say that another skill that's necessary is vision, reasoning, and judgment. A CTO needs to be able to make very hard decisions and see far off into the future to know and understand that, yet today we may save some money by going with option A, but tomorrow option B will be much more expensive. Option A will be much more expensive. Therefore, option B, although it looks like it's more trouble today, in the long run, the total cost of ownership of option B is lower. They need to be able to make those decisions that not be affected by their own preferences or biases. And I will say this, is that amongst technologists, it's really easy for people to get into religious wars and get very dogmatic. Oh, you've got to use this programming language, or Windows is better than Mac OS, or X is better than Y. A great CTO understands that technologies change. They need to have decision-making and technical soundness that transcends any one technology. And that takes very, very good judgment to be able to have. Not very many people have that. I would also say that it's important for the CTO to have management and leadership skills. When the team's small, you may not look like there's a lot of management, but eventually, if the person's going to remain CTO, they have to be able to manage people and lead a team. They've got to be able to build strong teamwork amongst the team to be able to make sure it's healthy, that turnover is not high, that people love working there. And those are definitely soft skills that not every technologist has. Not every technologist is a great people person. So that's something to consider. So you have to look at soft skills and business skills, because it's not just about technical productivity, but it's more importantly about business productivity. I know this is a lot, and I have a lot to say here because it's something that's very, very important. We actually have this all documented and covered in a talent rubric. A rubric is basically a guide or a standard of what is expected to be able to be at a certain level. Okay, so we apply a rubric to your talent infrastructure, to your human resources, and that's all covered in our How to Crack the Code on Startup Talent. That's a class that we offer. You can look at that on our website, fundablestartups.com.
I hope this video helps you maximize the impact of your startup CTO. If you want to watch the entire 45-minute class on great techie versus great CTO, head on over to fundablestartups.com, where you can watch it at your convenience for free. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel to stay connected when we release new content.